the time of night when you're lost.
Elements and components are the bread and butter of the no GUI framework. In fact, much like bread, GUI elements actually inherit from two base classes: the GameObj and the transform.
So I actually briefly mentioned the transform class in a past video. I should also mention that I created a transform class to help keep track of a shape's position, scale, origin point, angle, all that stuff. And when you combine this with a pointer to a shape, you have something you can actually render on screen. So now let's discuss the element's second inherited class, the GameObj.
So the GameObj isn't super important as of now, but the data it holds will be very important later. And that data is a unique ID number, a short descriptive tag, and some kind of content or description. Now, elements are the bread of the framework, then components are the spreads that go on top, like jam, or butter, or even cream cheese. You see, any given element can have any combination of these components, but you can't have multiple of the same component. And much like how these spreads change how the bread tastes, components will change how an element looks. So instead of peanut butter and jam, you'd have text or images instead. Here, just let me show you what I mean.
Here we have the code that makes up an element. So you have its base classes here, it's pointed to its shape here, as well as a focus and active state. But down here we have what is the components, which is a pointer to something called a C container, which is short for component container. So what is a component container? Well, let's take a closer look. So the component container is simply a wrapper for this tuple over here that we defined as the components. So a tuple is a data structure that allows us to store multiple types into a singular object. We put our components inside of the tuple, which then we point to inside of the element, and this gives every element one of each component, which can be accessed through the component container. But we don't really want every element to have every component, because that'd be one messed up looking sandwich. So instead, what we've done here is we've defined a base class that all components must inherit from, called the C interface. And this has a toggle of sorts called active. And if active is true, then the component is rendered, but if it's false, then we ignore it. And here is the actual code that renders the components. Note how it checks if each component is active first. Also note that these components do not render themselves. In fact, all components within the framework are restricted to pure data only, no actual functioning code. So I'll show you how that works in the next few upcoming videos, where I'll cover each component specifically. So if you're interested in that, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you liked the video, why don't you leave me a like down below.
Here we go.
So they're finally here performing for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. Put your hands together if you want to clap, as we take you through this monkey rap. DK Donkey Kong.